So in today's video, let's talk about the best portrait lenses for a small home studio. So hi everyone, this is Jiggie, a portrait and wedding photographer from the Philippines, and welcome to the channel. So before anything else, if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel and would want to learn more about off-camera flash photography or maybe just photography in general, then this channel is for you. So you might want to consider subscribing, and while you're at it, click that notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. And if you want to see some of my images, you could always follow me on Instagram. It's at Jiggie Alejandrino. So welcome once again to my small home studio, and today we will talk about the best portrait lens for a studio this size. This is basically only about 3.5 meters deep and 2 meters wide. And I've practically set up something here that I've done in previous videos already, so if you want to know more about this setup, I'll put the link in the description below. But basically, I just have a standard diffuser here that you can find inside a 5-in-1 reflector, and I have my Sony flash here. This is the Sony f60RM version 2, and it is mounted on this one. This is called the MagMod Mag Shoe right here. So I also have the front element or the front wide diffuser of this Sony flash put down so that it spreads the light even more. So I'll put it here on the cold shoe portion of this MagMod Mag Shoe, then lock it in place. Now it is modified using this one. This is a Photix Premio shoot through 85 cm umbrella. Now this is a relatively small light source, but in relation to a subject's face, it is also still a big light source. In other words, rule of thumb is that the bigger the light source is, the softer the light. So with this particular light source, if I have it this close to me, it does give soft light because of the size of the light source. However, if I have it a little bit further away, it might not be too soft. That's why I am going to diffuse it using this 1 meter or 1.2 meter by 2 meter, well, you call this a scrim, but it's an inner diffuser of a 5-in-1 reflector. Now I also have here the gray backdrop from Savage Paper. Basically, it's just a cutout to fit the size of the studio. This is probably about 5 feet wide, and it is hung using these things. These are the Manfrotto Auto Poles, and I just have a backdrop holder mounted on it. Okay, so I will put this behind the scrim, but before that, let's talk about the camera and lenses that we will be using today. So the camera that I will be using is my Sony a7R Mark IV-A. This is the A version that has a better LCD in the back. And the lenses that we will be discussing today is this one, the 50mm 1.2 GM. We also have the 35mm 1.4 GM, the 85mm 1.4 GM, and the 135 1.8 GM. Of course, these are all the G Master lenses, but I will be talking more about the focal length and not the aperture. So I will be shooting, as I will discuss with you now. I will give you all the settings of the camera, and everything that you're actually seeing right now is recorded via this one. This is Atomos Ninja V, which is recording everything that my camera is seeing, so you get a live view of everything that I'm shooting. In other words, every single image that you will see from here on end is straight out of the camera. Absolutely no editing is going to be done. Okay, so my settings are, I have it at 1/250 f3.2 ISO 100. The reason why it's at ISO 100 is so that basically I can get the cleanest image possible, and at the same time, this is actually my exposure. Let me show you first. This trigger, the WRC1M, is the one that remotely controls this Sony f60RM2 from the back of my camera. And the nice thing about this Sony triggers is that the moment that I put it on my camera, it automatically disables live view. That's why you could see basically what's in front of my camera right now. But if I turn it off, that's my actual exposure. It's technically almost pitch black. So when I turn off my camera, again, turn on the trigger again, it's going to disable live view so we can see what we're shooting. But again, remember, this is not the actual exposure. This is the actual exposure. Now, My white balance is set at 5600 Kelvin because this flash unit is rated at 5600 Kelvin. Okay, so that's basically it. So while I put this flash behind the screen, it's time for me to call in my wife, who will be my subject for today. Babe, come on in. Alright, let's put it over here. Hi, babe.
Hey.
Of course, you look fantastic, and we'd like to thank Mela Jimenez for virtually assisting Coco put on her makeup for today. Alright, so I started off with a 50mm. Now the reason why I started with a 50mm, babe, can you go in closer? Because for a small home studio, sorry, you're too close, one step back. For a small home studio like this, it is actually nice to have the flexibility of a 50mm because the 50mm is perfect for a half body portrait, meaning from waist up to about top of head. Now the key with a 50mm, if you want almost zero distortion, is that the camera height should be about chest level of your subject, give or take. And you can see here, I'm actually shooting a little bit below her waist, which is actually okay. But you could take one step forward if you want, babe. That's it. Alright, so again, let's just start shooting and I will show you the difference between each lens. But I think I'm actually a bit too low. I'll bring it up a bit. There we go. Okay, alright, babe. Can we get into your angle? Face here, please. Very nice. Can you move slightly to your right? To your right? No, I mean, sorry, forward. Yeah. Then one step back.
This here?
Yeah? And actually bring it down a bit. Tilt it down a bit. Beautiful. Okay, I think we're slightly overexposed, so I will bring down my exposure to maybe just 1/2. I actually don't like this part here, so can you just move slightly going here? Because I'm getting a spill of the light. I could actually bring in this trim or just do this. Maybe just do this a bit. Okay, let's tweak the lights a little bit. Perfect. There, that looks better. All right. There we go. Relax your fingers. Can you take one tiny step back? Tiny. Yeah, tiny step back. All right. So this is your 50mm, and normally I use this for half body portraits. Now you can actually get away shooting it at full body, but let's take a few more shots half body, babe. All right. Very nice. Beautiful. Good. I love that. One more. Good. Perfect. All right. So now I'm gonna turn off first, basically all the settings. Since you guys know the settings, I will turn off my HDMI info display off so that I can see it in the back of my screen, so I can shoot it without having to refer to this monitor. Because I actually want to show you guys how the 50mm will look if I shoot tight portraits. Okay, babe, come in closer, please. There, profile here. There, perfect. So with a 50mm, you actually have that not that much distortion. However, these 50mm are not really meant for portraits that close. Okay, I will show you now the lens that is perfect for that type of composition, which is the 85mm. Okay, so let's put in the 85mm now and show you the difference. Okay, let's have the exposure at the same 3.2. Okay, at 3.2. I will handhold this first and take the same exposure as same composition as earlier, more or less, this way. There. So look at the difference. This was shot with an 85, here straight out of the camera, and this is shot with a 50. Look at the difference of distortion. There. So, to be honest, I will show Coco later the pictures that we are taking, and she will be the one to choose. I won't tell her which one's a 50 and which one's the 85, and I will let her choose which one you like the most, right? So with the 85mm, it's also good for basically some half-body portraits. However, in a small home studio like this, if you're shooting this half-body portrait, let's say for example like that, you notice I'm already at the very edge. So I'm pushing it, but 85 is still very good when it comes to these things. Love it. Perfect. I love it, babe. One more. Okay. Now, there is another portrait lens that I truly love also, which is the 135. Now, why do I love the 135? The 135, especially for non-models, the hardest thing was really my composition, what I was doing to go for earlier, when I was this close to her. If you're shooting someone who is not really that comfortable in front of the camera, having a camera this close, right, would make it, it'll make it feel uncomfortable, correct? So that's the reason why you have the 135 lens. Also, aside from it being a perfect portrait lens too. For me, the perfect focal length for a portrait lens is an 85mm to a 135. By the way, I forgot to mention that whenever you're shooting tight portraits, the best camera angle will be at about eye level or higher of your subject. Now, the nice thing about the 135, can you do it the same pose as earlier, the portrait? I could take the same portrait from here. So if I take the same portrait from here, she won't even know that I am actually shooting that close. That's one big advantage of shooting with a 135. You're not really invading that person's personal space. Plus, of course, it's an amazing, amazing lens too. Like I'll show you here. This is the 135. This one's a 135. This one's an 85. Sorry. This one's a 50. Then this one's a 50. This one's an 85. And this is the 135. So I will probably show you guys everything side by side at the end of the video with some edited photos. So if you want to stay for the end of the video, you'll be able to see everything. So that's basically how I use these lenses. Now the problem with the 135 is that if I'm shooting in a small home studio like this, I'm this far already, and this is the best that I can actually do, compositional wise. But it's still not bad, see? Very fantastic. Love it. Perfect. Now, the last is the 35mm. 35mm 1.4 is something that is, a lot of people consider it to be a portrait lens, but I've never really felt that it was a good portrait lens. It is good maybe for environmental portraits, but personally I find it a little bit too wide. I like using the 35mm if I'm going to shoot half-body portraits. You don't have to go back there. If I'm going to shoot half-body portraits, like this one, it's very easy for me to shoot it with a 35mm. Now, the 35mm has some downsides. It's about distortion. The 35mm is actually very prone to distortion. So basically, if you have it at waist level, you're not going to get too much distortion, like that. Oh, we're a bit underexposed. I will now make it stronger, maybe at about full power. What's my setting? Oh, that's why I set 4.5. Let's bring it back to 3.2 and bring back the power to 1/2. Let's see. There. We're good with that. So, if I am shooting too low, there, right here, you can see, we're actually distorting, making her legs look longer, which is actually good if you're going to be shooting, let's say, for example, the shoes. It's going to be a shoe shot, it's okay, we could actually do it this way. But look at this. If you shoot her from above, you're going to make her look small. Shooting her from here would actually be perfect. Shooting her from below is for your shoe shot, but I would always want to shoot her at about waist level. Or maybe just a little bit lower to make it look taller. Not that she needs it, but just a little bit. Same pose, please. There. Very nice. One more. And good. Next pose. Okay, and all right, now, a lot of people will ask me, how is the 35mm when it comes to portraits? Well, look at it. Can you come in closer, babe? Can you go back to the same pose as earlier? So if I do a 35mm portrait, look at the distortion that you're going to get. Look at that. So I will now show Coco basically all the pictures that we've taken of her and ask her what her favorite image is. Okay, here, baby. So, yeah, this portrait. And you like it so far? You like what you're seeing? This portrait? You can say something, babe.
Okay.
Okay.
I do like the second one.
This one to this one. Wait.
That one.
This one. This one. This is wait. This is your first. This is number one.
Mm-hmm.
This is number two.
Okay.
This is number three. And this is number four. So which one do you like?
I like the second one the most.
The second one. So
Mhm.
she actually likes the one shot with the 85mm.
Mhm.
Well, you don't know what the 85mm was, right? So basically, it is in line to how we really like things. It's why I love the 85mm, because the 85mm gives the least amount of distortion, and I think at 135 we're making your face a little bit bigger,
I see.
right? And that's why you didn't like it. Between the 85 and the 135, you chose the 85 more because it felt more realistic to how you see yourself in the mirror, right? And those are, well, there's really nothing wrong. Thank you very much, babe.
Thank you.
There's really nothing wrong with any of these lenses. It's just a matter of how you're going to use them to shoot. The 50mm for me, right here, the 50mm for me is the best lens. Well, that's not a 50, this is 85, but let's define this one first. Whenever we're talking about portraits, the definition of a portrait is really basically a photograph of a person. But a portrait has different levels. In other words, you can shoot a headshot, you can shoot a half body shot or a full body shot. So these are the best lenses for all of those. In other words, you've got your 50mm here, which is the best for half body shot. You can even push it to about maybe here, but I will not use this for tight headshots. For tight headshots, I will use either this one, my 85mm, or the 135, whichever I decide that I want to use. Both are actually very good, but I would still prefer using the 85. And for full body portraits, definitely I will be using my 35mm. Okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And if you want to see some of my images, you can always find me on Instagram. It's at Jiggie Alejandrino. Don't forget, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and while you're at it, click that notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. Okay? Till the next video.